need to talk, guys. I need to talk. Let's talk. I need someone to talk to. Yeah, I don't actually need to talk to anybody. I just had a productive conversation with my partner about some anxieties I was having and felt like it would be a good conversation to have with you guys as well. Because one, talking it out more will probably help, but also hopefully if anyone out there feels the same way that I do, talking it out or hearing my thoughts and my partner's constructive thoughts on it, maybe it'll help you too. Because honestly, like what she said helped me. So let's get into it. Yeah, so let me just set the scene for you guys. But basically, in December of 2024, I legally changed my name. Yeah, it was a really long and difficult, annoying ass process because I do live in the state of Florida. I need y'all to feel the weight of that. I live in Florida. But yeah, so it sucked, but it was something that in my head added a lot to my gender like dysphoria. Like in my head it was like, oh, when I reach these certain markers in my transition, then like I will no longer have anxiety or like gender dysphoria. Newsflash, that is not correct. That's not how that works. So yeah, that's not the case. And weirdly enough, you know, a couple videos ago, I literally hopped on here and I was like, yeah, like probably like 9 out of 10 times people gender me correctly, and then 1 time out of that 10 I'll get misgendered. For some reason, since I said that, that number has dramatically changed. It'll probably be like 6 and 4 now. Like 6 times I don't get misgendered, 4 times I do, which is a big increase. Yeah. I know. I don't have an explanation for it either. I actually have no clue why it's been happening. And that's why the anxiety started kicking in. Because then it's not even anxiety in the sense of I realize like, oh, I'm being anxious about it. It's anxiety in the sense of like, it's been 30 minutes and I've been like fixating on these different details and overthinking in my head this whole time and I didn't even realize it. So I'm like, oh, shit. Where am I? Who are you? What's going on? And I'm like jumping back into my body being like, oh my God. Or having to go do another task or something like that. And I feel like all of these like experiences have been happening in situations where it's like not even, because I never, ever since I started transitioning, I'll be honest, like I've never corrected anyone, like besides like say like a family member or something like that. But even then, for the most part, if someone uses the wrong pronouns, like I just like, not say that I suck it up and take it, but just like, I just never wanted to, like, it made me anxious to, like, correct someone, because I feel like I never practiced, like, the right way of, like, in my head I go over it, but then in the moment when it happens, interacting with that person, I don't know what to say. 2, I feel like I never want it to be a big deal. Like, you know how some of those guys are like, I'm a man, like, don't. I just didn't want to be like, I'm not a fucking girl, dude. Like, you know, like just come across as if like being called a girl is an insult, because I don't feel so. It's just like, I just want you to like recognize like who I am and validate that, you know? So I feel like I just never wanted to come across that way, and I just didn't. And then at some point it just stopped happening, like to the point where it was like, if it did happen, it was so like, oh, this barely happens to me, so I was just like, whatever, and I just keep rolling. But now that it's happening a lot, again, out of nowhere, it's been really bugging me, just for lack of better terms. It's been bothering me. Like, it's like, because in my head, I go back to the whole, like, well, what am I doing that's so feminine, or like, what is, because I know I have a pretty face, like, I get that aspect, but when I'm in public, I'm usually wearing a mask, and I'm also usually wearing a head covering. So all people see of my face is this, usually. Which I'm like, you know, yeah, I do still have pretty eyes, whatever. But, you know, for the most part, most people are like, oh, your voice. Like the people who found out I was trans after meeting me transitioned were like, oh, I genuinely had no clue. Or like, they're like, oh, well, your voice, like, even if I thought you were a little bit pretty, like, your voice was like, the dead giveaway. So I was just like, oh, that's a guy, So every time I've been having one of these interactions lately, I've been like, is it my hair? Because some of them have been older people, which, like, I know the older demographic, typically it's like long hair, you're a girl, short hair, you're a boy. And I feel like because I'm in this, like, sweet androgynous, like, gender neutral spot a lot, like, I could get why some people, now that my hair is, like, I guess a lot longer than it was in December, that people are like, oh, that's a girl. So a lot of the people have been older folks. But I've also been having some people who are probably in their 30s, not as, like, old or whatever. Not saying whatever, you know what I mean. Just in a younger generation that doesn't really associate long hair equaling one gender or whatever. And they've just also been misgendering me. But it's also not usually to my face either. It's usually in a conversation where they're talking to someone about me. Like, so my job, I'm like public facing, like I work in retail and stuff like that. So I interact with customers a lot. And like one time last week and then one time yesterday, it was like two different customers, but like they were talking to like one of the customers. He was like on the phone with his wife and he kept saying she, but referring to me. So it's like, you're on the phone. I can't be like, excuse me, like it just, which I guess I could. Technically, there's no rule stopping me, right? I could have done that, but I felt awkward doing that. And then the other one was like, the lady was talking to her son and was like, oh, well, she already got that for us. And I'm like, can you actually just leave? Thank you. Have a good day. Like, it kind of makes me freeze in those moments. But then I just, since that happened yesterday, and it's been happening a lot, like I said, I just, all night I was thinking about it. This morning I woke up thinking about it, and I was just like, what is it? And then it gives me these thoughts of like, should I present differently so that I can clearly get, put in the category of, oh, this is a guy. But then it's like, I hate that system. I hate everything about categorizing gender and like, feeling like I need to perform a certain stereotype or, role to then be, properly identified by people I don't know. And like another part of it is like, these are people I don't know. Like most likely I won't see a lot of y'all ever again. But it still has just been making me, get in my head about it and be like, what's going on? And I've even had thoughts of like, well, maybe I should cut my locks. But I'm like, I don't want to cut my locks. Like, I've been growing them out for a reason. And also, newsflash, men have locks too. Like, I've seen a lot of guys with long hair. It's like not, it makes me feel like, oh, my combination of a pretty face and also like long hair is making people be like, oh, that must be a girl, And it's like, for lack of better terms, a little bit killing me softly. But I like talked to my partner about it. And, she had some like good insight, and it did help me like reframe how I was thinking of these encounters and how I wanted to move through them in the future. Because realistically, I don't want to change anything about myself. And realistically, my perfect gender expression would be like a gender neutral fluid person. I would just want it to seem like I was born male at birth, and then you think I'm just like a little bit fruity. Like, that's in an ideal world, that's how I see myself in my head. So it's like, I wanted these things like changing my name or like facial hair or like top surgery, and then it would be like, once I have those, I won't have any more dysphoria. But my partner brought up a good point. Like, she was just like, realistically, and when she talks to me about these things, she also does tread it lightly. Like, she's not saying it in the way I'm gonna say it now. It's just because I'm talking to you guys and I just want to like get the point across. But she says it gently because she knows this is something that really bothers me and something that gives me a lot of anxiety, and she's really, really supportive about my dysphoria. So I don't want anyone to get that twisted. But for just to keep like, just to condense our conversation and what she said, like basically her advice was like, you do kind of have to make peace with yourself for yourself. Like, I can't wait until X, Y, and Z to feel more comfortable, which obviously to some extent she was like, I get that, like, those things would make you feel more comfortable. But in a way, sometimes when we push off trying to work on just being comfortable in ourselves and leave it up to like certain like milestones, I guess you want to call it, then it doesn't actually work out that way. And also, what if those things don't actually make you feel better, and then you're still here stuck feeling like anxious or like, you know, dysphoric or uncomfortable in a way. So for example, an example I could give you guys is I thought changing my name legally was going to make me feel like, you know, now I don't have this anxiety anymore when I have to pull out my ID or like when I travel or something like that, right? If anything, I wouldn't say my anxiety is worse, but because it's also been like, since I changed my name, funny enough, I've gotten misgendered so much more than before. It's like, it didn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, I don't want to wait for like top surgery to feel more comfortable in my skin. Like, obviously that's going to play a huge role in like how I navigate space, not really how I navigate spaces, but just how I feel. And like looking in the mirror every day and feeling more like, okay, my body feels like the home I want it to feel like, right? But things can also go wrong with that. I can't like 100% hope. Well, I can hope, and I am going to put good energy out into it of like, I'm going to love my results. They're going to be great. I'm going to be happy. But there are a lot of times that people get top surgery and it's not the results they wanted, or, you know, it just doesn't necessarily make them feel as good as they thought it would. And, you know, even with facial hair, I could just like have facial hair, but still like my face might not change anymore. And I have to be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, I could have facial hair on top of that, but I could just look like, you know, a pretty guy with a beard, which like realistically is all I want, you know? And I wear my mask in public anyway. So it's like, okay, say I had facial hair right now, I'm still going to be wearing my mask because y'all are a little unhygienic. And yeah, that's a different problem we can unpack another day. But I'm still gonna be wearing my mask, so it's like you wouldn't even see my facial hair. You would still just see. And then at that point, I was waiting on the facial hair to feel like, oh, okay, finally I'll get the, you know, not really respect, but I'll just get the like validation that I was seeking. But realistically, when you're always seeking validation of like other people to feel more comfortable about yourself, I feel like it's almost like running a race, but they keep moving the finish line. Like, will you ever really get there? Probably not. And like, I'm happy with how I look. It's not like I have a problem with how I look. And if I was in an ideal, like perfect society, people would just like ask your pronouns first before they like assume something, you know? And then it's like, I don't even think I would have dysphoria at that point, you know? I would obviously still have some things that make me feel a little bit, but I feel like most of my dysphoria comes from the society I lived in. If I lived on a remote island with just me and my partner, I would never have dysphoria, ever. Because, like, I wouldn't even feel the need to get top surgery. Obviously, it's just, like, how I want my body to look. But it's not like she makes me feel uncomfortable about, like, my chest. It's just, like, I wouldn't want to go swimming, like, shirtless, which is, like, something I want to do. Or, like, I wouldn't, you know, like, I don't go out in public typically and don't, like, bind. But she wouldn't make me feel less of a man for having like a chest. You know what I'm saying? I hope you guys are following along with what I'm trying to explain and say. But, you know, at the end of it all, I don't want to also give people the space to continue to that was a lot of twos. But I don't want to continue to give people the space to also disrespect me in a way of not demanding the respect of like, hey, these are my pronouns. Like, it doesn't need to be a fight. Like, I don't need to be like, say the right pronouns or else, you know, I can just like, oh, hey, you know, actually my pronouns are he, him. And if they're weird about it, then I just make them feel weird. You know, it's just easier to say and do in my head or like talking to you guys or talking to my partner than it is to do in those moments. But that's a skill I need to develop. I just need to work on it because realistically, I just feel like people are always gonna purposely be obtuse sometimes, and sometimes people don't even mean it. Like, they're thinking they're being woke because they're like, oh, I know typically someone who looks like that um, people would say that's a guy, but I know that's actually a masc lesbian, and I'm woke. So they're thinking they're doing the right thing by not calling me a guy, when really, like, I'm like, no, actually, girl, I'm a boy. Like, I just feel like there's so many, you know, ins and outs of this, and it's a very nuanced, like, subject. And at the end of the day, I'm also realizing, and my partner also mentioned this too, of like, it's all subjective. Whatever that person's view of the world is going to directly correlate to how they see me. And yes, I could do things like cut my hair, and I don't know, that would probably be the only thing, really, just cut my hair, because like I still dress pretty masculinely. It's not like I'm dressing in clothes that are typically like, identified with women, even though I don't like to gender clothing. Like, I'm dressing masculinely and all of these other things, but I really feel like it just could just only be my hair. But I don't want to change my appearance, like how I present, just because of that, because I really like my hair. Like, I've never committed to growing my hair this long before. And I feel like on the days where I do want to step more in my feminine energy, like, I have that perfect balance. Like, I just feel like, a river that's just like constantly going back and forth and like flowing. And I love that. That's what I want. That's ideally what I want. I just wanted that, and I wanted people to like see that too. But I have to recognize that I don't live in a society where people are conditioned to think that way. People don't see gender and sexuality in the same way that I necessarily do. So their perception is going to like change, and the way their perception changes affects the way they view me, and then by default, what box they put me in. So I have to give people the space to be like, I guess wrong to me, but like, I have to also like correct them if that makes me uncomfortable. And I need to like stand up for myself. And I feel like a huge part of like my transition, I've just never done that. I've never been like, hey, this is actually my pronouns, or this is my name, and like, please respect that. It's always just been like, okay, and I just kind of like take it. And I don't want to do that anymore. And I don't want to like keep making myself like think that I need to hit certain markers in my transition to then be like, okay, it's okay. Because most of the time my chest appears flat when I'm out in public. So to be like, oh, I'm going to wait till I have tough surgery. What? I'm going to be like, look, I'm like, that's just, there's really no need for that. And I'm not going to do that in public, realistically. I feel like this has just been teaching me that I need to like, one, just feel that validation from myself of like, I don't need you guys to tell me that I'm a man to know that I'm a man. Point blank, period. And I don't need to feel like I don't know how I want to word this, but I don't need to, hold on, let me marinate. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. It's just like, I don't need your validation. And then when I really do look, quote unquote, like the way I imagine myself to in my head, like, then I'm really going to be confusing y'all, because I'm going to be doing some like crazy shit. And even that makes me kind of like a little bit upset, because it's like, damn, I wish I kind of had the like courage to just go ahead and do that regardless, and then just be like, oh no, I'm a guy. Like, meanwhile, I'm doing all these things that are typically associated with like femininity, right? But, I can give myself grace, because it's like, this is also a new, relatively new thing in my life. Like, yes, it's about to be almost 3 years that I've been on T, but at the same time, I'm 28. Like, I've been living my entire life one way, and now I'm like switching it another way socially. And I don't necessarily live in a state that like is friendly to queer folks. I don't live in a country, I mean, it's safer than some, but I don't necessarily live in a country that like, makes sure that it protects its trans folks, at the end of the day. So it's okay that I have anxiety about correcting people and like how they're going to react when I live in a red state, I don't have any legal protections against that. And like, that's just something that comes with like me wanting to live my truth. But that doesn't mean that I want to let y'all dictate the truth I live. Because if I change myself more to fit into your boxes, I feel like that defeats the point of transitioning. Like, I transitioned because I was like, I don't want to live in your box. I don't want to be in this confines of the label that you guys put me in. I want to be beyond that because I am beyond that. I'm bigger than that. I'm more expansive. It's almost like trying to fit a galaxy inside of like one little planet or something like that. Like, you can't do that. So I don't want to like shrink myself down. I just need to demand respect. And by demand respect, I just mean like, you know, correct people on my pronouns and learn to be comfortable with that. And learn to be comfortable with the fact that some people just like are going to be obtuse and might not want to like respect my pronouns, but that doesn't change like who I am, and like it doesn't diminish my identity, because I don't want to give those people that power. That power is within me. I hope this chat helps at least one other person. I don't, I'm excited to kind of like basically document this and then like come back in a couple years and see how I feel again. Because it's like, once you document it, it's like, it's just frozen in time, how I felt in this moment. And, I do look forward to a day where everybody's just a little bit more open and I don't have to like even feel this way, like no matter how I present, it's like you still respect that person regardless. And I'm not even saying the people who were like misgendering me meant to disrespect me. I feel like they just genuinely were like, whatever, boxes they had in their head, they projected those onto me and they were like, oh, because of XYZ, this is a girl, so I'm going to use she, her pronouns. And like, if someone wants to get rowdy, let's get rowdy. I'm not even that type of person. I'm not going to get rowdy with nobody. But just respect people if you want respect back now. It's that simple, y'all. But yeah, so if you guys have any comments or any ways that you feel like, you talk to yourself in your head or some advice you've gotten and you want to drop that down below, feel free to do so. Yeah, other than that, hope y'all have a good one, and I will see you guys in the next video.